Morning class, welcome to Business History. Today we're going to be talking about economic events that happened between 1900 and 1929. Grayson.
I know about World War I from 1914 to 1918 and the first assembly line in 1913.
Kaitlyn.
In 1907, there was a panic which caused the Federal Reserve to act 6 years later, and the stock markets crashed.
Mihika.
Oh, and the Industrial Workers of the World Labor Union was started in 1905.
That's good, class. Can anybody else tell me about how the U.S. economy was doing around these events?
In 1905, the economy was actually doing pretty well. The union was just made, and so working conditions were starting to get better. So families that were working had a voice and had better working conditions.
The government started to crack on these types of groups after World War I, so the membership also declined from the union during this period.
So we know World War I was a big economic event between 1914 and 1918, but can anybody tell me how this war might have affected the U.S. economy and the American family?
World War I was a total war, so businesses started producing more products for the war.
Also benefited businesses because of the boost in production, which created a better flow of capital and higher demand that also benefited the economy.
It affected the American families because while the men were off at war, women had to work in factories and supply for the war.
Before and after the war, the men were dominant in the family, but during the war, the roles were reversed because of the men going away to war and the women taking on the men's roles.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about inflation rate, consumer spending, GDP, unemployment rate, and interest rate. Okay, so can anybody tell me what inflation means?
Isn't inflation when money loses its value?
But the exact definition of inflation is the general increase in prices and the fall in the purchasing value of money.
Oh, so what would be an example of inflation?
Inflation in 1920 was a deflationary negative 1.55%. 1921, the first year of Warren Harding's presidency, saw prices decline, negative 11.5%. And by 1922, prices were basically flat, losing only negative 0.59%. The minimum wage in 1901 was 22 cents an hour, which is about $6.50 in today's money. A gallon of milk cost about 28 cents in 1901, which equates to about $8.50 in today's money. So the average family was spending more than they were making per hour on goods. So consumer spending was at a fairly low rate around this period. Gross domestic product is the total value of goods produced and services provided in a country during 1 year. The height of gross domestic product per capita in our time period was in 1929 when the stock market crashed at about $7,000 per capita. During the first 8 years of the 1900s, the unemployment rate was fairly low, less than 3%. There were 19 business cycles during the 20th century, resulting in highs and lows in unemployment. After 1908, it fluctuated, with a recession recorded in 1915. The unemployment rate had increased to over 8%. Between 1915 and 1921, the unemployment rate dropped below 8%, but it increased yet again during another recession in 1921. The interest rate between 1900 and 1929 stayed fairly stable, around 3%. By the end of World War I, interest rates had jumped to about 5.5%, probably to compensate for the amount of money being put into the war and the lack of money fluctuating throughout the United States economy.